Next up, we have a guy that actually I got introduced because of this event. His name is Mike Bowling. He says that he is a late bloomer to motorcycles at early 30s. Me too. That's when I started. But since has logged 750,000 miles. So we have a very much motorcycle veteran joining us on stage. Please welcome Mike Bowling.
Well, like she said, I was kind of a late bloomer to the motorcycle world. Before motorcycles, you know, my brothers had bikes, and you know, I had dirt bike or two, but wasn't real serious with it. My primary interest was race cars, and I had dirt track sprint cars for, I don't know, 20 years, and as Randy can probably attest, I don't see where he is, once you get involved with that, and as deep as I was, you know, nothing else matters. I mean, I didn't have time for motorcycles or anything else really. I mean, and I say racing is, you know, it's like a drunk, you know, that goes sober. I mean, you're still an alcoholic. Racing is like that. I quit racing, but I'm still a racer. You know, I mean, it never leaves you. So, but long around all 91 or so, you know, we were my brothers and I, we'd go racing every weekend, you know, and we'd generally go west over to Bloomington, Indiana on Friday nights, and we'd go somewhere here in Ohio on Saturday nights, and they're always picking up trade papers, you know, trading posts and that kind of stuff. And I've probably, you know, cleaning out the truck on Sunday morning, I know I've probably cleaned out 2 semi-loads full of old trading post newspapers, you know, and these guys were looking at bikes and whatnot. And so along around 91, we had been over probably to Bloomington, and they had picked up an Indianapolis trading post, and there was a YSR 50 in there, and I thought, yeah, I could enjoy that. And I had a buddy going over that way to look at some kind of race car parts, and I told him, I said, hey Greg, stop and look at this YSR and see what it looks like, see if it's any good. And he did, and he calls me the next day and said, yeah, it looks nice. And so I went over the next day, my brother Marvin and I bought it, and it was kind of funny. Marvin and I, we kind of had it planned out ahead of time. Now, if you're not familiar with the YSR 50, they're pretty little, and yeah, it'd probably fit on the table or close to it. We talked, and the people we bought it from probably still believe we rode it home. And Marvin said, all right, I'll see you when you got home, and he took off and down the street, and we had it planned out that we'd throw it in the back of the truck once we was out of sight. So I had the YSR, and I rode it, I put about 8,000 miles on it, riding it all over the place, you know. And then I kind of figured out I need a bigger bike, you know, to get somewhere. And so I think it was 94, I bought a new FCR 600, and yeah, and I loved that. And it was such an, I don't know the word, I won't say escape, but maybe escape from race cars. I mean, because like with race cars, I mean, you was so mentally focused on that. I couldn't tell you the amount of times, the middle of the night, you know, something, I'd think of something. I'd go down the garage at 2 o'clock in the morning and look, say, hey, did I fix that right? But motorcycles got me away from that. You know, it was something else I could focus on, and so it was good. So since then, like Susan said, I've logged right around 750,000 miles. I still got most of the bikes, you know, and I can look at the speedometers and add them up, and it's you know, getting pretty close to 750,000 miles. So in those 750,000 miles, I've had plenty of opportunity to be rescued and to rescue others. And also a firm believer in karma. What goes around comes around. Or people will tell me I'm the luckiest guy I've ever seen. Yeah, you know, some of it's luck, but all of it's not luck. You know, between people that look after me, and then if I see somebody I can help, just like Susan was saying, I mean, if I see somebody in need, I mean, be a car or a bike, I mean, I'll go out of my way to help them usually. And it always comes back to me. Yeah, so, and like I say, I've had plenty of opportunities to be rescued and be rescued. And I've got 4 stories here. I'll try to speed them along. The first one's going to be, would have been 2002. Concours National Rally, the COG National Rally out in Montrose, Colorado. Anybody's ever been out there, it's a beautiful part of the country. So I rode around Montrose there I rode out to the rally, rode around a couple of days. And then Joe Cocker, the singer, if that's what you call him. I mean, yeah, I like him. I'm a fan, but you know, it's kind of anyway. He had a restaurant out there, not far from there, or his wife did, or what. They had a restaurant, and so that's where I wanted to go, and it was up Route 92. Route 92 is a spectacular road, curvy, twisty, and whatnot. And I was rolling along kind of quick, and I thought, you need to slow down here a bit. You don't know this road, just slow down, back it down just a little bit. Well, that was good, but then the problem with that is I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been. So I'm looking off to my left, and fortunately we had the guardrail here because there's about a 2,000-foot drop off, so it was good to have something to clobber into. Would roll me there next. So there's the bike. Route 92, it's a pretty desolate, zero traffic, and I'm thinking, oh man, what am I going to do here now? And scroll there to the next one. And I had my Aerostitch Road Crafter on. That was the first one I had bought. And you can see on the left, you can see it, the left leg just below the knee had some damage, but not bad. it held up real well. So again, yeah. So I'm there. I'm sitting there. It's kind of. I didn't buff out. I'm sitting there, on the guardrail, and there's nobody. And then after a bit, I forget how long. It may have been an hour. Here comes a state truck with a chain gang, and they were, what luck, I didn't have, no cell phone, and probably wouldn't have had, reception if I had even had one. Well, they had a radio, and they, I talked to the ringleader, whoever he was, and told him I obviously going to need a wrecker or something, and so he calls me a wrecker, and the wrecker, it takes a couple hours for him to get there. And scroll it here again. There's a little bit better view. You can see the canyon to the left. And like I say, good thing I had the guardrail to clobber into. I hit here and ricocheted down. You can see the vehicle down there. That's where the bike ended up, and me. Hit me there again. There's where the bike hit the guardrail, the front wheel, so that's kind of hurt.
Put a tube in that.
We'll wait till the other side.
So the record driver, he finally gets there, and we loaded up. And at the time, I was a mechanic working on U-Haul trucks, and I said, if you can take me to a U-Haul dealer. So he called one, and they didn't have any trucks. But he knew of another rental company, and I don't recall which one it was. And so he took me to town. We put it in the back of the put it in the back of the truck. There's more pictures of it. That's probably it. I made it home. I fixed the bike. I mean, as bad as that looked, I mean, I fixed it and put another 90,000 miles on it, you know. They're a great bike. I had that one, and which had a hard life, and then when that one, I mean, it was I fixed it and it looked okay and it did fine. But then in '06, I bought another one because I knew that was going to be the last year of that generation, and I put 120 or 130,000 miles on it, and when I traded it in at the place up on Route 4 in Fairfield on a new V-Strom, it had 120 or 130,000 miles, and it sat up there for 5 years. Nobody would buy it because of the mileage, and I'd go up there and look at it, and I really felt bad the day I left it at the dealership. I mean, it was like I had abandoned a loyal friend. I'd never had any problems with it. And we went all over the country, and I just left it sit there. I mean, I felt bad, I truly. Anyway, you know, I get those fixed. Got a little bit off tangent here. I'm kind of bad for that. But I'll try to keep it. Anyway, I was mostly okay from that crash, and then about 6 months later, my leg got a big knot on it, and I went to work. It was like on a Sunday. We were at the my brothers and I, we were at the motorcycle show in Cleveland, and walking around that day, and the next day I would go to work, and I go to put my pants on, and my pants are real tight, and ended up my leg had swollen up, got a big infection in it, but it ended up, I mean, I go to the clinic, they cut it open, got the junk out, and kept it clean, and ended up, I mean, it was all okay. So that's the first story. The second, so that was, I was being rescued by a chain gang.
Yeah.
The next story, I go out to Iowa quite a bit, more racing related stuff, probably one of the premier tracks in the country as far as dirt track sprint cars is in Iowa. And I go out there a lot. I'll likely go next weekend. Pretty common, I'll hop on my bike and I'll leave Saturday morning, ride out, go to the race, ride home at night. So that's pretty common. Anyway, Kelly and I were out there I forget what year it was, but been a while back. And I was probably on the concourse that I had crashed, about when it would have been. And Kelly was on his KLR, and there's more gravel roads in Iowa than there are blacktop roads. I mean, they're everywhere. And Kelly was on the KLR, and he wanted to ride some gravel on the way home. And well, I'm on the concourse. I don't want to do 100 or 100 foot in gravel, let alone 100 miles. And so I'm going home. Kelly said he's going this way. So we split our ways, and I get home Sunday early afternoon or whatever. And long about 4 or 5 o'clock at Sunday evening, Kelly calls me. And he was on his third rear flat. And he had patched, Kelly's sitting right over here in the blue hoodie. He had patched the first one, you know, so take the tire off, take the wheel off the KLR. It's not a difficult deal. And break the tire down, patch the tube, put it back together, fixed the first time. And I don't know what kind of a road he was on, whether it was a bed of nails or whatever it was, but he had a second flat, and he patched, same deal, take the wheel off, patch that one, put it back together. And then when the third one happened, I mean, I don't know what span of time this was, a few hours or whatever it was. The third one, he didn't catch it quick enough, and the tire got low, and he tore the valve stem off of the inner tube, so now he's dead in the water. And so, like, it's 5, 6 o'clock, whatever time it was on that Sunday evening. And he calls me and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm just sitting here at home." And he says, "Well, I'm in Springfield, Illinois. I'm on my 3rd flat. I've junked the inner tube. Obviously no place is open on Sunday. Typical of motorcycle dealers. Nobody was open on Monday. Can you hop in the truck and come get me?" And I said, "Sure." And so hooked up the trailer and went to Springfield, Illinois. It's like 320 miles west of here. That was me rescuing someone. The next flat story was I was out in Iowa again. Like I say, I go out there a lot. I was on my V-Strom by now, and rolling down Route 34, and just about the time I feel the bike getting a little bit squirrely, a car pulls up alongside me and he points, "Flat tire," So I said, "Yeah, I feel it." So I'm pulling over, and this guy pulls over, and it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I carry plugs, a little air compressor, so it's wasn't a big deal. Put a bike up on the center stand, find the, whatever it was within it, yank it out, plug it, blow it up. And this guy's there, he's watching me yet, and I get it fixed in a little bit, and I says, "Yeah, this will work." I said, "But I'm not crazy about it. 600 miles from home and then plugs." I mean, it was in the center of the tire, which typically is okay, kind of. I said, "It'll work, but I'm not crazy about it." And I said, "I'd be more happier with it if I had a patch on the inside." And he says, "Follow me to town here, Mount Pleasant, I think it was." He says, "Follow me to town." He said, "I got a buddy in a tire store." And all right, well, I'm thinking, most car tire places won't work on motorcycle tires, or even can for that matter, as far as breaking it down and this, that, and the other. So I follow him down there and into town, and he goes in and talks to somebody, and they said, "Yeah, we can fix it." And I needed a tool of some sort. I forget what I didn't have. And one of the guys bring me a tool out. I got the wheel off in just a little bit. They roll it in there, broke it down, patched it on the inside, remounted it, brought it out to me, and I put it back together. And I cleaned up, and I go in to pay my bill, and walk up to the counter. I say, "Okay, guys, appreciate it. What do I owe you?" He says, "You don't owe us nothing. Your buddy paid for it." So here's this guy that I don't know from Adam, was with me for an hour or more, and then paid to fix my tire, on top of it. I mean, so karma. I mean, what goes around comes around. Well, around 2010, I've got a Ural with a sidecar. Okay, it's. I love it when I don't hate it. It's evil, but I like it because I can ride it in the snow, the ice. I ride it year round. Yep. And the worse it is, the better it is. Yes. It's just. But anyway, about 2010 or so, a lady at work, her son had a truck that they're having issues with, and asked me if I'd come look at it. And I said, "Sure." And it was in February, and so I'm riding up to their house, and I'm going up 747 up there above Fairfield, and I saw a car in the turn lane, and I'm approaching it, and I'm watching her, and just as I got to her, she thought she could make it, and turned, clobbered me in the left side, hit me actually right here in the leg. Of course, I flew off. The bike flipped. I called them. Of course, the police come, and she was cited, and there was witnesses, and she had insurance and all that. That's another side story tangent that I won't get into. But that was a nightmare with the insurance, but that's another day. They asked me if I needed to go to the hospital, and I said, "I think I'm okay." Well, my leg was pretty sore. So I went to work the next day. I was working at Princeton Schools at the time as a mechanic, and then we had to drive every day. And they asked me if I could, so I drove to work the next day. I couldn't ride a bike. and my little car was a stick shift, and I couldn't even push the clutch pedal in, so it's clutch pedal with, rev up, push the clutch in, first gear, clutch out, and I get to work, and hobbled in there, and they said, "Can you drive today?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so, but you may have to take me out to the bus." I said, "I don't know if I can walk." I worked that whole day. Well, my guest here, Brenda, she was a former driver there, and so some of the other girls that worked there, they had her phone number or whatever, and they call her and said, "Take him to the friggin' hospital." and so she took me to the Jewish that night, and they x-rayed my leg, said, "Your leg's broke." I said, "I've worked on it all day long." They said, "You got to go to the surgeon tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." So I called in sick the next day, which is the only day I've called in sick in probably the last 35 years. I mean, I never miss. If Monday comes or whatever, I go to work. I mean, it's just my deal. He says, he said, "It'll knot back together and not and they put a thing on it." And he says, "How long do you need to be off?" I said, "Well, how long should I be off?" He said, "Well, the more you're off of it, the less it'll hurt. But," he says, "you can stand on it." And I said, "Well, I'll just go back to work the next day." So I was off one day for a broken leg. I fixed it. I fixed that bike, fixed the Ural, still got it, still drive it, ride it, wrestle it, whatever you do to it. Guys.
Talk about tangents. Please give another warm hand to Mike Bowling for joining us on stage tonight.